On July 3rd, 2021, the International Space Station sees 10 unidentified flying objects flying around it. So folks, are we facing an ET invasion? Are the Greys real? Should we celebrate a new international holiday called Hug a Space Brother Day? Should we start celebrating? Yes, you heard me right, brothers and sisters of God. The U.S. government has recently released its findings and found out that UFOs are real. They're not of any human origin, but yet they have no idea what they are. In other words, there's nothing to see here, move along is their basically premise of their entire report there. So we see in recent declassified military videos that verify that these objects, these UFOs, defy the laws of physics as well as descend into oceans and freshwater lakes. So could this mean that the stories about the ancient Mesopotamian Akalu might somehow be true? What is an Akalu? Well, in the Mesopotamian ancient pagan lore there, the Akalu are described as 7 sages who appear first as fishmen coming out of fresh water and saltwater bodies who were sent by the gods to educate humanity on knowledge needed to grow civilization, such as metalsmith making, how to make weapons of war, art of warfare, philosophies, ideas, writing, medicine, art, science, astrology, and how to look beautiful, okay? Just as First Enoch describes, okay? I'm just telling you, folks. The stuff was seen before back in the day, but nobody pays attention to it, you know? So yet, did you not know that the Russian Navy revealed that secret UFO encounters they had back in 1982 during the height of the Cold War, where Russian Navy divers were practicing exercises in Lake Baikal, one of the deepest freshwater lakes known to man. And during a deep dive, they spotted a group of humanoid creatures dressed in silvery suits, folks, that sounds just like the Apkallu, in the world's deepest lakes, Lake Baikal. And then one of the divers tried to reach out and catch one of these things or put a net around it, and they were attacked. 3 of the divers died due to the sound wave or something that came and forced everybody to the surface from a deep dive very quick. So 3 divers died of the bends because they had, because of what these creatures did. Okay? I'm telling you, that has been recently declassified. So what are these UFOs? Who are these gray beings? Who are these entities floating around in the lakes that was verifiably seen? Should we be concerned? Are we facing an ET invasion? Or is this the return of the Akalu? Well, maybe, maybe not. Well, folks, I want to tell you something. The Bible says something about this. I bet you didn't realize that. Some of you following this show and following other things, you're probably well educated on this, but many of you have not even heard of this yet. In fact, this is talked about in the Bible, where Jesus reveals a prophetic fingerprint about what is happening in the last days and how to identify if we are in the last days. And he says this in Matthew chapter 24, verses 37 and 39 from the New King James. But as the days of Noah were, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. Whereas the days before the flood, they were eating and drinking and marrying and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark and did not know until the flood came and took them all away. The days of Noah's time are going to be seen again. That's what Jesus is saying. A lot of scholars bat this around. They say, no, this is not talking about UFOs. This is not talking about this. This is talking about something else. Well, let's look again. The days of Noah, it was a time when the sons of God, known as the Watchers, altered the human gene pool, and they created what is known as Nephilim, giants. This is a prophetic fingerprint that mirrors in so many different ways, similarities. What happened then will be seen in the last days. So that people in the last days can correctly discern the correct time and how to identify how close we are before Jesus returns. This is very important. Just keep tracking with me here. But before they actually appeared, there were some other things going on that people need to pay a very careful attention to. And that is called the influence of the Watchers. So let's look at Genesis chapter 6, verse 13 from the New King James. I'm reading right here. And God said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. So with that, before all this happened, God tells Noah the end of all flesh has come. listen to me very carefully. He gave John, the Apostle John, the book of Revelation. He gave Daniel and other the prophets and stuff, the Old Testament prophets, not new, whatever prophets, but the Old Testament prophets, the biblical prophets, how to identify the last days. And the final judgment is revealed in the book of Revelation. So we have a message that has already gone out in the world about this. But near the end times, it is just as it was in the days of Noah. God begins to speak to Noah, telling him the end is all coming. It's coming. It's coming. Get ready. Listen to what it says in Matthew chapter 25 about the 5 wise and 5 foolish bridesmaids. You have the 5 wise bridesmaids did what? They heard a call. In fact, they all did. The 5 wise got ready and took off. Okay, and the foolish had to go back and try to find some oil. Isn't that correct? So there was a call that was heard. So as it was in the days of Noah, and when God says the end of all flesh has come, there's going to be some type of knowing something is coming. Something is going to come about. Some people are going to hear this call and prepare for it. Others in the church world will remain foolish, chasing after distractions. Look at verse 13. It says it will be also a time of great violence. This is a sure sign of watcher manifestation. Fallen watcher, fallen angel manifestations is a time of great violence. So we need to watch for a time of great violence. The Greek word translated violence that's used in the text here means lawlessness, injustice, immense immorality, cruelty, destructive behavior, base pride, a time of a seared conscience. Remember, the Bible, Paul writes that men will have a seared conscience, okay? Just think about that. Now, what does this have to do with ETs, grays, UFOs, and Akalu? Much in every way, folks, as we will soon see. But we first got to lay this groundwork in as it was in the days of Noah, so you can get an idea how close we are to the end. Along with the violence we'll see, will be seen a time of great distractions, just as Jesus mentions in Matthew chapter 24, when people were distracted with eating and drinking and marrying and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark, okay? You're going to see distractions. That verse is talking about being distracted by the cares of life. All the ancient world empires, get this, use the art of distraction and violence to control entire populations and eliminate those who they deemed as opponents. That is a fact of history. Don't have time to get into all the details about it, but just keep tracking with me. Near the time of the end, we'll see a time of great distractions, just like Jesus says. We are distracted by the media, by phones, by politics, by goodies. We are distracted with arriving at new levels to acquire peace, safety, health, prosperity. So folks pay no attention to where their leaders are taking them. So the leaders of the world, the great men of the earth, the politicians, are going to be all about distractions. So people are distracted so they don't see how much control the government is really controlling you. Who will track and monitor everything you buy, sell, and eat and control you because they don't trust you. They want to control everything. And anybody who knows what's going on, they want to get rid of. I'm just telling you right now. So Paul warned in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3, when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction will come. Put the pieces together. We'll see a rise in violence and distractions, okay, in the end times that will point to you need a world government dictating everything to you. So how in the world does any of this fit with UFOs and grays? Well, let me tell you. All this comes about first. How? By spiritual contact is made to the watchers through occult means. There will be a rise in paganism. There will be a rise in the New Age movement pushing to bring all the world's religion into one. Okay, that's the idea. But first, the world leaders, this is world leaders now, people who are in charge, kings, governors, and stuff, they are under the influence of watchers. And it is proven that the UN and other governing agencies like John Podesta and stuff like that are involved in the occult, folks. Just get over it. They are. Many of them are. A lot of them are not. They're being initiated to higher levels. I will get into that much later. I want to do another teaching, another series on this subject here. But right now we're going to keep going here. So spiritual contact is made with the watchers through occult means. Spiritual contact comes first. Okay? We'll see a rise in paganism and the New Age movement. You'll see a rise in Luciferian enlightenment. All for the betterment of humanity, it's sold. And all through distraction. We'll make you healthy, wealthy. We'll give you prosperity. You can have it all. Just obey us and you have everything. And they want to guide humanity on how to create a higher civilization. Just like the Akalu did. Do you get the picture? Folks, in the Genesis 6 account, their influence is seen affecting all of humanity as seen in Genesis chapter 6, verse 5. Let me read this from the New King James, but let me add the word meanings, the key word meanings into the text so you can get an idea of what is being said. And then you can say, am I seeing this today? Is this the days of Noah that Jesus is talking about? Let's find out. And it says in Genesis chapter 6, verse 5, and the Lord saw that the wickedness, meaning the dysfunctional morality, dysfunctional lifestyles, mores that manipulates good and evil for one's own ends, of man was great, growing stronger in intensity every day on earth. Stop right here, folks. So do you see any of this happening today? People with dysfunctional morality of right and wrong. There is no right and wrong and all that stuff. Do you see dysfunctional living and lifestyles, the destruction of the family by chance? Do you see a destruction of good mores in exchange for bad mores? Do you see that people use their mores to justify manipulating good and evil for their own ends and purposes? That's totally opposed to God's original order and design. They want to change God's design of morality. Have you seen anything like that? Let's look at Genesis chapter 6, verse 5 and continue on here. And God saw that every intent, the word intent means it's an imagination. It's how you derive key plans and put things together like a potter does in order to build a framework of ideas, okay? So I'm going to stop here. That every intent of man's heart, okay, every intent, every purpose was for shaping ideas and building a framework of ideas. That's what that means here. So let's look here for a second. Is there evidence of this seen over the years to change, restructure, and shape the human mind to slay all that's decent and good in the world and replace it with what is dysfunctional in order to control all aspects of one's life? Do you see this by chance? I'm just asking you. We see ideas about redefining the family, haven't we? We see the ideas being formulated and plans in place to restructure and reshape society. Okay? What they're trying to do is they want to recreate the world into a new image and likeness. And that comes about by imaginations in the mind formulating detailed plans in order to carry that out. So every thought and intent of the human heart, okay? So we'll see a reshaping of thoughts and detailed plans to remake society, reshape gender, reshape all this stuff that kind of matches the ancient pagan religions, where it was all about, no gender. You have to be androgynous to be a god. So you'll see a push for androgyny taking shape. And you put the right word there, and with a T in front of it, you'll get an idea what I'm talking about. You will also see these ideas taking shape to root out those that oppose this change. They want to stay with God's order. They're going to be opposed as enemies. And one needs a totalitarian government in order to get rid of these enemies, because they don't obey the laws of a changing society for your own good, where there is no mother, there is no father. It's all your children are controlled by the state. You are just a birthing person who breeds for the government, for good serfs, to so forth, etc. Okay, just tracking with you. Keep tracking with me here. It is a war against truth. People design plans and schemes to war against objective truth. we'll see this happen. We'll see a rise in the planning abilities here to accept unethical practice and mores in law. In other words, change laws, seasons, and times in order to break the laws, okay? We'll see that. We'll see a manipulation of ideas being conveyed and imaginations of the evil heart being conveyed in education, in government, and military that extols perversion, that tells you that promiscuity is okay, that pride is the way to be, and lawlessness you can get away with burning down the system. That is the influence of the watchers. We are witnessing that this very hour. Unless we pray, unless God intervenes, this is going to happen, okay? I'm just telling you, we got to get it together, folks. We got to get it together, okay? I'm telling you all this to prepare you. I'm trying to get a call out to you so you'll understand what is going on so you can prepare your heart for it and how to handle it. So how did all this come about in the days of Noah back then? Well, let's look. In Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 6 explains how. The fallen watchers first came to redefine and then remake what it means to be human, because those verses talk much about, and they came and went into the daughters of men and created the Nephilim giants. They wanted to alter what is human. So first they come in and influence and try to alter your mind to think destructive thoughts of immorality as is normal. Promiscuity is normal. They want to alter your thinking, then they want to alter your DNA. This came about by collaboration with human agents. It could not have happened without collaboration with human agents because these individuals gave their women over to them. The word wives there can mean young virgin maidens. It doesn't necessarily mean wife in that sense. I'm just saying. Some people say it does, but in my research, and I read the ancient texts like Jasher and Enoch and Jubilees and even Josephus. They all say these were fallen watchers. These came, they cohabited with women somehow, and somehow they altered human DNA and made giants. And these women were taken by force. The book of Jasher says these women were taken by force. If you look at the context of Genesis chapter 6 and do a Hebrew study on the words, and you'll see that a word that's used in there can mean taken by force as well. And so this came about by collaboration with human agents who were in contact with them to remake a brave new world, to build it back better, to improve humanity for humanity's own good and sake. I mean, this stuff was probably sold to them back then like it's being sold to the world leaders today to control it all. So how did all this come about? So let me give you a simple synopsis. These entities, through spiritual contact, I'm just telling you, deceive the ruling class. Think of chiefs, think of tribal leaders, whatever you want to think, to come and educate them on how to be a new civilization, how they can build it back better. The Akalu came to teach humanity civilization. All right, keep tracking with me. And they want this civilization, everybody will be easily controlled, maintained, and they wanted to make new human beings, to alter the human structure. In the book of Jasher, the days of Noah explains how the watchers taught men to mix one species with another. This is called gene editing and gene modification. It was impossible to do this until just recently, since the days of Noah. It hasn't been done since then, because you couldn't mix a jellyfish with a bunny rabbit. You couldn't mix a fish with a tomato. You couldn't do this stuff, but now you can through gene editing and gene splicing. In the book of Enoch, it describes that the fallen watchers coming as friends of humanity, teaching them forbidden secrets from heaven. They taught new philosophies, new economic ideas on how to form governments, make metals, all kinds of things, arts, entertainment, writing, all this stuff came. How to manipulate armies, how to take over other opposing city-states who oppose this world view, okay, in order to gain power. And it talks about how the days of Noah were a very violent time, and things weren't going as promised with these as they were promised to these world leaders back then. And neither will it be in the future, in the coming days of Noah, that we will see that mirror what happened back then. So in Genesis chapter 6, verse 2 and 4 reveals how the sons of God saw the daughters of men and took whom they chose, and thus the giants or Nephilim were born. In the time period leading to the last days, we'll see folks making spiritual contact with these entities before they will begin to appear on earth again. That is my point, okay? In fact, now the Akalu might be appearing right now before our eyes as UFOs. And Chuck Missler brought this out, and he called them interdimensional beings who need craft to appear in and out of one dimension into another in order to help humanity make a new race of human beings. This will first come through influencing the great men of the earth with ideas that they can do this and needs to be done, and to improve humanity. That's what's being sold again, as it was in the days of Noah. Think for a moment. The ancient Mesopotamian religions teach how their gods came first out of the sea in fresh water and taught the secrets of civilization and the secrets of heaven to humanity. One of the first contact with one of these fallen entities, watchers, is seen with the devil himself in Genesis chapter 3 in the fall of man. You doubt that the Bible teaches this? Well, explain the fall of man. There was a watcher in the garden, a Nakash, a shining one, called the devil, called the serpent, a shining one, and we had the fall of humanity as a result. And the world after that became violent. Cain slew Abel and so forth, etc. And then the world was distracted. And then people came back to the Lord, and then it happened again. They fell away in distractions and violence. They repented, returned to the Lord, and all this happened. Then by the time of the days of Jared, then the watchers appeared, and things took a turn for the worse. That's what the Bible talks about, how the world became more wicked after that. Notice how the devil led humanity off track in the Garden of Eden. This actually lays out political ideas and philosophies that, entice the imagination of the human heart to continually think on how to make things dysfunctional, okay? All for the betterment of humanity. In Genesis chapter 3, verse 4 and 6, it says out in the New King James, the serpent, the shining one, the devil said to the woman, "You will not surely die." In other words, here's an idea. And world leaders to this day are talking about people being able to live up to 1,000 years and how to conquer death by implanting your brain inside of some cyborg or some robot. This is reality, folks. This is not science fiction. These people are open about it. They're talking about it. These are United Nations World Economic Forum I'm talking about. Other people are talking about this. Scientists are talking about this. They're open about it. In the book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, Klaus Schwab mentions this very thing. Improving human DNA, altering it so people can live basically almost forever, and finally insert their brains into some type of cyborg-type biological robotic unit. You can live forever. So the serpent said to the woman, "You will not surely die." Very enticing, right? So you can defeat the penalty of sin because you will not surely die. That's what the devil's trying to say here. And you will be like God, knowing what is good and evil. You're going to be just like God, knowing good and evil. You're not going to die. You can manipulate and control everything now. The devil's saying just follow him, his light, his knowledge of good and evil. What does it mean you'll be like God, knowing good and evil? Well, knowing good and evil means you'll manipulate good and evil together to get your own get your own desires, to be prosperous and be in health and all that stuff, okay? Without God. You don't need God. You'll be your own God. And you can change things. You can change good to evil, evil to good. You can do whatever, and you'll arrive because you're not going to die. You'll defeat death. That idea is very prevalent in many halls of science to this day. This idea came about in 3 ways, and is also seen in political philosophies and ideas that want to control it all. How? First, humanity saw that this was good to grow their own food. In other words, take control of the food source. Secondly, it was seen as pleasant to the eyes. Thirdly, this fruit was desirable to make one wise. This is a prophetic pattern that will be seen coming in full swing in the last days. How? Let me break this down so you can understand it. First, good for food. Humanity saw that the forbidden knowledge will feed them and provide the food they need to eat. So they will create it themselves. Who needs God's loving provision, how he grows things and animals and plants? We can build it back better. How? We can make designer mystery meat with 3D printers and grow meat in a test tube. We can take one cow and grow thousands of cow meat from that. We don't need cows anymore. We don't need animals. We can just make our own. We can make synthetic vegetables. We can redesign things out of a test tube, all for humanity's own good. Yeah. Think about it. Think about what you're seeing. So the bottom line of all this is, in the last days, we'll see a rise in a political economic will to control our food chain by altering it. Why? To save humanity. Where's the beef? It ain't there. It comes from a Petri dish now. Becoming wise. That's the next thing we see. People want to become wise. We'll see the world leaders and these elites becoming wise. How? By exercising skillful insight that teaches, instructs one's understanding, and with prudent, pragmatic details, with utter devotion on how to prosper and govern the world, in order to make it simple for you guys, to build it back better, to build a brand new world from it, okay? In fact, the World Economic Forum Global Risk 2013 Global Risk Assessment 8th edition report has a whole conglomeration of charts and lists and all kinds of things on there. Is all about how to navigate risk and silent opposition in order to achieve global governments through the framework of ideas and justifications and laws to achieve a new world order, because their ideas are superior. So they have detailed plans with wise, pragmatic plans in order to do this. So with that, let's look at some evidence here. So if you look on your screen there, it says, Klaus Schwab, founder of the executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, said this in 2016 World Economic Summit called the annual meeting of Global Future Councils. This is found from their own website. And I quote Klaus Schwab here. The problem that we have is not globalization. The problem is a lack of global governance. Klaus Schwab often mirrors occultist Alice Bailey's channel messages here. And I quote Alice Bailey, within the United Nations is the germ and seed of great international and mediating reflective group, a group of thinking and informed men and women whose hand lies the destiny of humanity. Alice Bailey, Discipleship in the New Age, on page 220. And you compare that with the Fourth Industrial Revolution, intro, on page 13. Klaus Schwab writes in his book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, and I quote, first, I feel that the required levels of leadership and understanding of the changes underway across all sectors are low when contrasted with the need to rethink our economic, social, and political systems to respond to the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Second, the world lacks a consistent, positive, common narrative that outlines the opportunities and challenges of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, a narrative that is essential if we are to empower a diverse set of individuals and communities and avoid popular backlash against the fundamental changes underway. This is pretty much mirroring the sentiment of Alice Bailey, who said this from the Discipleship of the New Age, page 220. Within the United Nations is the germ seed of great international mediating and reflective group, a group of thinking, informed men and women whose hand lies the destiny of humanity. Okay, and what she's talking about is forming a one world government where certain people control it all. All this comes about through the idea of the use of becoming wise. Eve and Adam saw that this fruit would make one wise. They can have pragmatic plans and how to bring this together. So the Fourth Industrial Revolution lays out a pragmatic plan. Klaus Schwab's The Great Reset lays out a plan. Alice Bailey's writings lays out a plan. The occult world lays out a plan for this, folks, for world governance and the need for it. And so, as I said, all this comes about by building up a framework of ideas through the imagination of the heart and mind that justifies using laws and how to manipulate things in order to get this job done. Bring people together. You got to identify the problems, and you got to have the solutions already in place. You have vast, detailed narcissistic plans. You know anything about narcissists? They love to make plans like this. Very detailed. And they can be so dead wrong, but they'll never be able to admit that their plans are vacuous and they won't work. They'll carry them out no matter what. No matter if it commits world suicide, they can never be wrong. The only reason they failed would be humanity, because they didn't plan well enough to control them in order to make their ideas happen, because their ideas are the best. That's the idea here. So one such recent plan is seen in Klaus Schwab's 2016 book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, on page 90, because what it's talking about there is how to get rid of opposition, because one of the plans is you've got to silence opposition. And how will you do this? And I'm going to show you from that book on how one of the ways they have planned to do it. It'll shock you. This is 2016. It's the Fourth Industrial Revolution on page 90. It's called, I can't say the word, but I'll say it this way, Erection Studies 2016, Controlling Erections. And I quote, as an example of the study and the impact of the Get Out to Vote messages on Facebook found that they increased turnout directly by about 60,000 voters and indirectly through social contagions by another 280,000 voters for a total of 340,000 additional votes. This research highlights the power that digital media platforms have in selecting and promoting the media we consume online. It also indicates the opportunity for online technologies to blend traditional forms of civic engagement, such as voting for local, regional, or national representatives, with innovative ways to give citizens more direct influence over decisions that affect their communities. On page 82. It talks about social media. While digital channels provide opportunities for spreading information and organizing action for good causes, they can also be used to spread malicious content and propaganda, as with ISIS, employed by extremist groups to recruit, mobilize followers. Young adults are particularly vulnerable, especially if they lack stable social support network. I have a comment down there. Guess who supplies the stable support network? You want to take a stab at it, anybody? You want to take a gander at that goose? Who supplies that? The stable social support network, folks. Just guess who supplies that. And we're seeing what happened on social media. I mean, a veteran was up there in celebrating the 4th of July. He was badly burned. He was saluting the flag, and the social media giant said that was that is inappropriate. Basically, that's inappropriate content, or whatever they said to him, and they're threatening to take him off and silence him. Why? Well, if you talk about maintaining order, lawlessness, goodness, the family, you are extremists now, and you need to be silenced. So they have plans in place to silence you. And are you seeing that right now? This is all under the influence of the watchers. Thirdly, we have this idea where it says, pleasant to the eyes. Well, pleasant to the eyes involves enlightened knowledge needed to inspire one to take over the earth, okay, and control it all. To do that, one needs compliant human beings to do as they are told and never dare question the narrative that they are being told by the powers that be for your betterment and your good. They're only doing it for the good of humanity, okay? Therefore, we'll see a rise in all governments of the world being enlightened on the need for the entire earth to be under the control of a one-world government of ruthless, noble, loving kind, ruling class who seeks to alter what it means to be human. And to make it all happen, the fallen watchers are influencing them to this end, to stamp out dissent, that in order to do that, you need to alter what it means to be human. All this is sold with noble-sounding goals. Just before the days of Noah, there will be a more spiritual contact with fallen entities, masquerading as angels of light, moving humanity to accept altering what it means to be human, sold as good, noble-sounding words and slogans. So with that, let me show you what the Fourth Industrial Revolution, some ideas that Klaus Schwab has from it that these people are working towards. So with that, let's look on your screen. Klaus Schwab and the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and I quote, page 24 on section 213, biological. It says, innovations in the biological realm and genetics in particular are nothing less than breathtaking. In recent years, considerable progress has been achieved in reducing the cost and increasing in the ease of genetic sequencing, and lately by inactivating or editing genes. It is now far easier to manipulate with precision the human genome within viable embryos, means that we are likely to see an advent of designer babies in the future who possess particular traits who are resistant to specific diseases. On page 12, the Fourth Industrial Revolution says this, and I quote from page 12 here. The Fourth Industrial Revolution, however, is not only about smart, connected machines and systems. It is a scope much wider. Occurring simultaneously are waves of further breakthroughs in areas ranging from gene sequencing, nanotechnology, from renewables and quantum computing. It is the fusion of these technologies and their interaction across the physical, digital, and biological domains that make the Fourth Industrial Revolution fundamentally different than all other revolutions. So what old Klaus Schwab is saying here is that they want to fundamentally alter your DNA, your thinking, make you your computers inside of you, alter you as a human being in order that they can track, monitor, and control you, just as it was in the days of Noah. They say they want to improve humanity in order to make a more fair and equitable world, of course. In other words, you will own nothing and you will be happy about it, but because you can only rent now. You have to share your house with other people who just come in. They want to live there. You can't do nothing because you want to be kind and good and loving. Under the world servers of Alice Bailey, who taught all about what love really means. It's collectivism, communism, fascism, all rolled into one. Lovable big teddy bear everybody can hug. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy about it. And you'll be genetically altered. You want to call somebody, you maybe have to press your cheek or use your hand and talk to somebody. Or just think it. You have a chip in your head. Whatever, I'm telling you, this is crazy stuff these people are thinking about. This book was written in 2016, and 6 years later, this is now reality. They're actually altering the human genome, altering what it means to be human. And they're doing this plan right now. Okay? With that, let me tell you the goal of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and what their goal is. It says it in one little phrase that is found on page 14 of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. It's called Digitization, means automation. In other words, make you an automaton. They want to make everyone an automaton that they can control, because they think they can build back better world with them in charge by making you an automaton, a robot, a cyborg, a new human being, programmable. They see this as good food. They see it's pleasant to behold and plan for and desirable to make one wise and to own it all and control it all as gods. They're following the same philosophic line of the fallen watcher known as the devil himself in the Garden of Eden, no less. Folks, they want to make people into puppets to control, to modify, with themselves being the puppeteers, accomplished by, as Klaus Schwab says on page 22 of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, sensors and numerous other means of connecting things in the physical world to virtual networks are proliferating at an astounding pace. Smaller, cheaper, smarter sensors are being installed in homes, clothes and accessories, cities, transports, energy networks, as well as manufacturing processes. This will radically alter the way which we'll manage supply chains by enabling us to monitor, optimize assets and activities to a very granular level. And a granular level, simply, folks, let me interject here, is they control the minute details. Remember, I talked about that. In the process, it'll have a transformative impact across all industries, from manufacturing to infrastructure to healthcare. The Fourth Industrial Revolution, social norms. It is a biological domain where I see the greatest challenge for the development of both social norms and the appropriate regulation. We are confronted with new questions around what it means to be human. What data and information about our bodies and health should be shared with others? What rights and responsibilities we have when it comes to changing the very genetic code of future generations? Wow, folks, the days of Noah are upon us, don't you think? Are you seeing this stuff again? The same reason, the same thing. They want to change the human genetic code. The very genetic code of future generations are on the stake here, folks. They want to alter the way you think and give you the ideas of a utopic, dystopic world, folks. The days of Noah are upon us. On page 83 of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, Klaus Schwab says this: and I quote, "Computer systems attached to the brain tissue could enable paralyzed patients to control robotic arm or leg. The same technology could be used to direct a bionic pilot or soldier. Brain devices designed to treat conditions of Alzheimer's disease could be implanted in soldiers to erase memories or create new ones." Get that. Folks, do you hear that? They want to alter and be able to erase your memories and put new ones in. Did you read that? This is now cutting edge. I'm reading online, reading stuff on this. They're on the threshold of this. If not already have developed it, they may have already developed it back in 2016 and are refining it now, possibly. You gotta remember, this was back in 2016, and this is 2021 right now. This stuff is cutting edge and being implemented now. And I want to ask you out of a box question. What else could I ask you? Can this explain the changing mind of Boris Johnson, the British Prime Minister? Boris Johnson comes in wanting to exit the European Union, sweeps in as a conservative, all these ideas, and all of a sudden, totally changed. And now he's talking about Build Back Better. He doesn't have the same eyes that he had before. Either he is a good liar or something might have been implanted in his brain to give him new memories. You ever think about that? You ever wonder why someone like Taylor Swift or some of these people come in so wholesome and good? We say the music industry corrupt them? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But do you think that some implantable device or something that could alter their memory and change their consciousness, change their very mores are being practiced on them that oppose such views at first? Do you think for a second? I'm not saying Taylor Swift ever opposed these views. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying, it's just funny to watch people of notoriety and fame suddenly start out as conservative-like and suddenly flip totally to the New World Order mindset. Just thinking, just saying here. As it was in the days of Noah, we will see a capturing of the minds and hearts of world leaders, great men and merchants of the earth, to reimagine the world. This is happening worldwide right now. The United Nations World Economic Forum, the Davos bunch, controls over 40% right now. Something like 50% of the world leaders, and well over 80 to 85% of economic, education, corporate, business, and merchant elites. Okay? And they've captured their minds to believe the garbage about building a better world without God. Changing your foodstuffs, giving you these imagination of your heart, these creative ideas, these detailed plans, to make you wise in order to carry it out. Implement genetic modifications, because this is good in order to keep the rebellion down, the pushback. We got to make good serf class people who never will rebel, okay? World leaders are following along with this Build Back Better idea. In Noah's day, this utopic dystopian idea came right after contacting the ascendant masters, the fallen watchers, to build a brave new world order out of the old. Tear it down, burn it down, and you know why now. That no one is punishing people who burn down cities and towns anymore, because they want to burn it down anyway, because they view you and me and the family and goodness and kindness and mercy and justice and truth and actual law and order as the enemy to their plans. Think about it. Same thing happened back in Genesis chapter 6. Don't you think? They see this as good. They see this as pleasant to behold and plan for, and desirable to make one wise and control it all as gods. Another evidence will be seen of this contact is seen in the push for greater technology to monitor and track all humanity, with a deceptive caveat that doing this to benefit humanity, but in fact it will be used to control us all. Shut up, serf, obey will become the new norm. We're coming knocking on your door, like it or not, we're going to, by government mandate, we got to keep you safe and sound. We'll lock you down for perpetuity. Well, folks, occult contact is evidence in their words, actions, and policies, and theories that you can no longer question or dare debate with actual objective truth and objective facts. You're not allowed to anymore. It is like something has gotten a hold of world leaders' minds, twisted them to create a new world of elites in order to create a new serf class just to support them. I mean, have you noticed this, or am I the only person that's noticed this? You see DNA modification happening now, growing exponentially every single day. You have chimaras going on now. They want to change the laws or work around solutions so they can modify human DNA and put humanity and mix them with different species in the United States and elsewhere in the West. That's happening right now as I speak. They're debating it. Klaus Schwab lays out the plan to connect human beings to the internet of all things in order to track and modify and control you. He speaks great lengths of that in the Fourth Industrial Revolution. I'll give you an illustration here from his book on page 110, and I quote, "Digital tattoos not only look cool but can perform useful tasks like unlocking a car, entering a mobile phone codes with a finger point, or tracking body processes. Imagine swarms of these attacking early cancer, bringing about pain relief to a womb, storing critical personal information in a manner that is deeply encrypted and hard to hack. With smart dust, doctors can be able to act inside your body without opening you up. Information could be stored inside you, deeply encrypted until you unlock it from your very personal nano network." You have smart pills. Let me talk about all this stuff, folks. So what is digital tattoos? These are tattoos that are designed to soak into your skin and alter your DNA so they can hook you to the internet. They're talking about. They have these right now. This was written in 2016. They have these on operational level right now. They also have what is called smart dust. What is smart dust? It's dust-like particles, smaller than dust. They're computerized nanochips. And you can breathe them in, or you can inject them into your body. And the idea is that they can work in your body and do surgical procedures and do all. That's the noble thing. That could be good, could be bad, you tell me, I don't know. But the actual ramification of it is they want to alter your brain and how you think as a human being. So if you like the idea of smart dust, well, you know, I might answer a few questions you might be having. And then the next is a thing for smart pills. Developed by Proteus Biomedical and Novartis, has a biodegradable digital device attached to it which transmits data to your phone on how your body's interacting with modification. So they have smart pill technology. And along with smart pill technology is neurotropic medications, and they call them smart drugs. And a lot of them are made up with different types of elements. A popular one that now is being used all over the place. If you're feeling a little low key, pop this pill. You can get through your final exams, and you don't have to sleep for a week. And all the stuff, and your height of creativity. The people in higher levels of government, as well as in the tech industry, take this stuff. They have stuff that now they inject into your blood and make you smarter and more brilliant than you ever could imagine. All this stuff is happening now. They have the technology. When you hear Jesus say, "as it was in the days of Noah," it makes a lot more sense now. The influence of the Watchers has taken over the minds of world leaders again. They see this as good food, pleasant to control and plan for, desirable to make one wise to own and control it as gods, just like the devil enticed Eve and Adam in the Garden of Eden. The plans are in the open. It is happening. This is a real conspiracy, folks, not some tinfoil hat con job, but it is real because you can go online, you can look on the World Economic Forum, and you can see and read it for yourself. Go to the Rockefeller Foundation, read it for yourself. Go read this stuff. It is there. That's how I find it, and it's extraordinarily easy to find. Their plans, their reasoning, and you'll see the destruction of all that is decent and good and replacing it with what? Total nut job craziness. Violence to make you fearful so they can come and say they're the saviors of the world. Folks, it's happening. And they want to silence any who disagree with their agenda. And they're teaching critical racism in school. They're teaching how to tear down the family. Man, all this stuff is playing out right before our eyes. Mothers and fathers are protesting in school boards who are arrogantly saying, "We ain't listening to you. We're going to implement this anyway because we are the elites. We might have been huffing some smart dust. We can't help thinking this way because we're smarter than you. We huff smart dust. And we don't know why we're acting this way. I've never a narcissist before, but now I'm a narcissist. I want to control you. Shut up, parents. We want your kids. You can't raise your kids. The government is the only one that can raise the kids because you're going to teach them morality and goodness and mercy. We can't have that. We need serfs. We need serfs. We need serfs." This all comes about by one side of the Luciferian yin-yang symbol. The male presents itself, like Klaus Schwab, as the savior from the violence and the chaos of the feminine side creates. If you know anything about the yin-yang symbol, you'll see this in Klaus Schwab's writing. Alice Bailey mentions using this same principle in her writings, folks. Klaus Schwab mirrors that. The world elites mirror Alice Bailey. She's even quoted in the UN, helped even found the charter of the UN. All this stuff is just out there. There's so much documentation to prove what I'm saying. I don't have time to go through all the details. So you have the Luciferian yin-yang being practiced on everybody. You have the world elites coming across as saviors. We'll save you from the violence that we control, the divine feminine that creates the chaos needed and the violence so we can control you. Aren't they nice and loving people? This is happening all because they distract people worldwide, and they're told what they can and cannot do, and it's forced upon them to be automatons. Remember, Klaus Schwab's is digitization and making automation possible, even in human beings. They want to make you automatons. Shut up and obey, sir. Obey. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's what they want to do to you. They want to bring all the political, media, arts, entertainment, education, sciences, redefine the family, redefine military, redefine who the police are, to be under control, all under the same utopic ideas of a one-world government. Okay, that's what they're doing. Many in the UN and government elites of the earth are occultists in some form or another. And Lord willing, I'll show this in future videos. If the Lord's willing, I will do that. What I'm trying to say here, folks, is that not everybody, all these world leaders they're initiates. And if you know anything about the occult world, they're initiates. They probably not know what the higher ones do. But there is a high-ordered degree of occultism going on in the world's elite on the earth. They're influenced by the Watchers, and now we're seeing UFOs appearing, and contact seems to be being made with these entities. It's on film, video. Governments of the world are releasing their experiences and encounter with these things, and only preparing us for what to come, the return of the Watchers, folks. So, and all these people are heavily involved in the occult in some form or another. This is witnessed, I think it was 2015 or 16 again, at the Gotthard tunnel ceremony, where all these pagan gods run out of the tunnel and all this stuff, and the world leaders are there yupping it up, and people doing lap dances and all. I won't get into all the sickening stuff that was seen there, but pure paganism, bringing back the anointed one, the reappearance of the Christ consciousness, the embodiment of the Christ consciousness, the occult world's Messiah, who we call the Antichrist. That's all that was about. So this stuff, you see the occult workings all over the place if you just open your eyes. Which the church world would teach on this, but unfortunately, the vast majority of the church world doesn't. If you're in a church that does teach about this and warns you of it, hallelujah. Hallelujah. You're not distracted. You're watching out. You're hearing the call of Jesus. Get ready. The bridegroom is coming. Okay? As it was in the days of Noah. God told Noah what's coming down the pike. You have 120 years to prepare for it. Now, I don't think we have 120 years to prepare for it. Matthew chapter 25 says this is coming really quick, in a twinkling of an eye, so to speak. But you got to prepare for it. Okay? Do you have oil in your lamp? So all these great men and leaders and world leaders are being under the influence of the Watchers. Knowingly or unknowingly, they are. And you'll see that happening in the last days, evidenced by a worldwide push for a world government system. All brought about by teachings from their ascended masters, their spirit guides. These are fallen Watchers, folks, to influence some of these folk, great merchants and men of the earth, with a plan about combining tech, the digital, biological, to monitor and track and remake humanity in order to control all aspects of one's life, because this is good food for them. This is desirable to enlighten their eyes, to change their DNA, and to make them wise so they can control everything like a god. So folks, how do we combat this? I ran way over on this segment, so let me do a part 2 and tell you how to combat this. So with that, I'm going to close this section out. Stay tuned. We're going to talk about how to combat some of this stuff in spiritual warfare on the next episode on prophetic fingerprints. You're watching on the Daily Renegade, or you see this, and even on my website. Think about becoming a member of the Daily Renegade, because they're cutting off social media thing. We don't have an alternative platform yet where we can go to have any solace, where we can actually speak our minds and have free speech anymore. So you might have to look up a place while we still can, and have to join and become a member today of the Daily Renegade. So just consider that. Just consider that. Also, if you like to support what I do, help keep me online, keep me on the air, my contact information, how to support me through PayPal, other means, will be seen on the screen. So just look upon your screen. My contact information's there, support information, and all stuff is there. So with that, you guys be blessed in Jesus' name.